This is KWTX News 10.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today on Midday. I'm Julie Hayes alongside CD Finley. We've had some warm days, and we do have some storm chances that we're looking at least for a little bit later this week.
Yeah. Heading into tomorrow and Friday especially is when we're watching those rain chances. But today it's just more cloudy and warm. Let's go ahead and take a look at the News 10 Skycam network over downtown Waco. You can see the cloud coverage there, helping to keep us a little bit cooler than it was yesterday. Temperatures heading into this afternoon are in the 70s, likely going to get back into the lower 80s later on today. We're at 74 in Waco, 76 in Temple, as well as Killeen. So not too terribly bad, especially when you consider the fact that we tied a daily temperature record yesterday at 91 degrees. That previous daily temperature record set back in 1928 also makes for the third 90-degree day of the year. We hit 91 yesterday afternoon, but we're also in desperate need of some rainfall. From January 1st up to this point, we've only seen 4 inches. Keep in mind, only half an inch of that was recorded in the entire month of March so far, putting us about 4 inches in a rain deficit, not necessarily a surplus. But the good news is we have rain chances finally on the way. Again, as you heard a moment ago, Thursday and Friday, we could be talking about some rain coverage across central Texas, but it may not be quite as high, but some areas could still see some rain. Rain chances up to about 50 to 60% heading into the end of this work week. So we'll have a look at that and your full forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, CD, thank you so much. Just over 2 weeks ago on March the 10th, 14-year-old Serenity Baker was fatally stabbed in school by a fellow student at Roy J. Smith Middle School. Now, since then, Killeen ISD has held several press conferences to share updates and try and reassure the community, but there are still a lot of unanswered questions. This morning, they held another press conference that News 10's Isabella Quintanilla attended. She is joining us now live from the administration building. So, Isabella, did we learn anything new today?
Yes, Julie, we did get a big update from the district. It's a small one, but an important one. Based on their investigation so far, they found that only one of the students was late to school that day. Previously, they had said 2. Obviously, they are in the process of verifying their attendance data with the investigation, but we also learned from Superintendent Joanne Fay today that while they have been in contact with Serenity's family, they have yet to reach out to the other girl's family as they are still trying to verify facts. She also shared today that while attendance at Roy J. Smith Middle School for their first day was 93%, there have been 38 withdrawals from the school so far. Another thing discussed in today's press conference was where they are at with their investigation. Superintendent Joanne Fay says typically the administrative investigation lasts about 2 weeks, but in this case they are still discovering new information that doesn't line up, and therefore they cannot for sure set a date on when this investigation will wrap up and that information will become available. But as for the criminal investigation for the suspect, that falls under the Killeen Police Department, sharing that they cannot comment on that. Security was another thing brought up, with Superintendent Joanne Fay sharing updates on how their increased security has gone since students returned to school and their plan to make that the new standard.
This moment in this crisis is an opportunity to put the stake in the ground. Like, we have to do better. We want to do better.
Now, according to the district, they will be updating their crisis response page with an FAQ to provide all the information that they have so far, and they will be updating that throughout the investigation. Reporting live in Killeen, Isabella Quintanilla, KWTX News 10.
All right, Isabella, thank you so much for that. Also in Killeen, we are learning more about a deadly shooting that happened yesterday. Police have identified 52-year-old Jahid Black as the man fatally shot in the 6100 block of Griffin Loop. According to police, the suspect, a 16-year-old male, opened fire at a vehicle that had stopped in front of the suspect's home after an altercation. Inside that vehicle was Jahid Black and 3 other male passengers, ages 10, 12, and 16. Police say that Black attempted to drive away but wrecked the vehicle approximately 2 blocks away. KPD says 2 sustained gunshot wounds while the 3rd was injured as a result of a crash after the shooting. All 3 were transported to local hospitals. Right now, we do not know their conditions. The suspect was taken into custody and transferred to the Bell County Juvenile Detention Center. The gunman who killed 23 people in a racist attack at a Walmart in 2019 has agreed to a plea deal that will avoid the death penalty. An attorney for Patrick Crusius says Crusius will be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. That agreement is for the state charges that he faced. The 26-year-old was already sentenced to 90 consecutive life sentences after pleading guilty in 2023 to federal hate crime charges. The attack at an El Paso Walmart was one of the deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history. The fallout continues from President Trump's national security team's discussion of a military operation over a non-government approved messaging app. The Atlantic has published new details from the text received by the magazine's editor-in-chief, who was mistakenly added to the group chat. Natalie Brand has the very latest from the White House.
There were no sources, methods, locations, or war plans that were shared.
Members of President Trump's national security team returned to Capitol Hill Wednesday, where Democratic lawmakers are calling for accountability as new details emerge about the group chat they were a part of discussing a U.S. strike on Houthi rebels.
Everyone here knows that the Russians or the Chinese could have gotten all of that information, and they could have passed it on to the Houthis, who easily could have repositioned weapons and altered their plans to knock down planes or sink ships.
The Atlantic originally reported their editor-in-chief was inadvertently included in the group chat on Signal, an encrypted but non-government approved messaging app. This morning, The Atlantic published a follow-up showing messages from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth sent shortly before the strike included the operational timeline and type of aircraft that would be used.
The magazine says it chose to reveal more details as the president and top administration officials insist classified information was not shared.
It wasn't classified information.
Nobody's texting more plans.
There should be an investigation.
CBS News national security contributor Sam Vinograt says typically operational plans about upcoming strikes are always classified.
If it's exploited by a foreign adversary or by a bad actor, that could put U.S. service members in harm's way, and also just gives insights into how the U.S. government is thinking about conducting military operations.
The White House press secretary responded to the New Atlantic article, contending the magazine has conceded these were not war plans, and she called the story a hoax. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
The Atlantic asked if the White House objected to publishing the messages. The magazine said that Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt responded that the administration objected to the release while insisting there was no classified information in that group chat. Still ahead today on Midday, we'll have a look at some storm chances that are in the forecast for a bit later this week. And some new research shows a concerning trend regarding childhood vaccination rates after the COVID-19 pandemic. We'll have the latest findings coming up next.